Endwalker answered a lot of questions about the world and story of Final Fantasy XIV, and tied up many of the threads left by previous expansions. And yet, at the same time, it was able to introduce new concepts and elements and raise its own questions throughout the story. One of these new concepts is, in my opinion, one of the coolest things added in Endwalker, that adds so many layers and depth to an already amazing story. Hello, I'm Mutsuki Yuko, the Solid Exarch, and today we're going to be talking about Dynamis. Dynamis is a new source of energy introduced in Endwalker that is completely distinct and separate from Ether. Like Ether, Dynamis is found throughout the entire universe, and permeates all living things and the stars upon which they dwell. In fact, Dynamis is far more abundant than Ether in terms of quantity, and actually makes up a majority of all known types of energy. Though, unlike Ether, its effects on the material realm are far weaker. At least in most cases, but we'll get to that later. Because Dynamis is so weak, it's very difficult to study, and thus, even to the highly skilled alchemists of Thavnair, the existence of Dynamis, or as the people of Thavnair knew it as, Akasha, was merely a speculated concept without a real working theory. Even the ancient Amyrtines only had a rudimentary understanding of Dynamis, and let's just say that the main working theory on what it was and how it could be harnessed didn't exactly end well. However, despite its effects on the material world being weak, and it being extremely hard to study, we do know a few things about Dynamis, and as mentioned, even the ancients of the Unsundered World had a way of harnessing its power, at least indirectly. Dynamis is, in short, the energy of emotion. Or perhaps in other terms, Dynamis is an energy that is normally very weak, but interacts the most with strong emotions and feelings. It's possible for strong displays of emotion to harness Dynamis in one way or another, to cause any number of effects, whether positive or detrimental. However, it isn't as simple as feeling a strong emotion and using Dynamis. Unlike Ether, which can be directly manipulated in any number of ways, Dynamis is extremely hard to manipulate, especially to Ether-based beings. Due to Dynamis' inherent weak interaction with the corporeal realm, Dynamis is nearly completely drowned out by the much stronger Ether, and thus any abundance of Ether will easily overpower the effects of Dynamis and effectively nullify it. This is also part of why Dynamis is so difficult to study. Any attempts to do so must be done in an absence of Ether, which isn't really possible when the star itself and all its inhabitants require Ether to live and thrive. It's possible that an inherently Ether-starved location, like the Burn, or even the Void, would be a more ideal place to study Dynamis, though, to my knowledge, no one has attempted this yet. Considering we're likely making a trip back into the Void soon, either in the 6.x patches or possibly even the next expansion, I wouldn't be surprised if we learned some more about Dynamis there, but that's pure speculation on my part for right now. Anyway, despite Dynamis being so hard to study, or even use, by Ether-based beings, it's not impossible. Because Ether basically drowns out Dynamis, an Ether-based creature designed to have very weak Ether can learn to channel and manipulate this other form of energy. These creatures, created and studied by the ancients in Elpis, particularly by Hermes, who created Medion as a personal project, are called entelechies. Because of their use of Dynamis, entelechies have very unique properties, though admittedly all of these are demonstrated solely through Medion, so whether these are properties inherent to all entelechies, or whether they're specific to Medion is hard to say. However, with Medion, we see that she's capable of communicating directly to another person by reading their emotions. This also seems to be the most natural way for Medion to communicate, as she mentions not entirely being used to communicating normally. Medion also doesn't need to eat, a side effect of how thin her ether is. It's likely she's either sustained either entirely by Dynamis, or the ambient ether around her, or a combination of the two. Medion also demonstrates the ability to communicate with other Medions scattered throughout the universe, regardless of the physical distance between them. She also seems to share a hive mind with the other Medions, though it's clear that each Medion also has their own personality and sense of self. Whether this communication ability and hive mind is something inherent to all entelechies, or whether this trait was specifically designed into her by Hermes, given Medion's mission, is unclear. When working in a collective hive mind, Medion was also able to use Dynamis to instill fear and despair into the hearts of all living things across the universe. Seeing as Etheirys, at least in the time of ancient Amarot, was the only known planet to contain life, it's unclear if this affected any other life in the universe, but it clearly affected Etheirys. The ancients' creation magics began creating awful beasts that would later be known as Blasphemies. The Convocation was able to create a shield of ether around Etheirys by summoning Zodiark, a being of darkness. Dark aspected ether, being astral, quickened the flow of the atmospheric ether around the planet, and thus protected its inhabitants from the malicious Dynamis directed at them. Much later, after the world was sundered and Zodiark was destroyed by a combination of Fandaniel's schemes and the Warrior of Light's power, the Dynamis being projected by Medion had a different effect. Rather than affecting creation magic, which the beings of the Sundered Realm largely did not practice, it instead transformed them directly into Blasphemies. Once again, this is a result of the counteracting properties Aether has on Dynamis. Because the unsundered Ascians were whole, their souls were much more etherically dense, and thus they remained mostly unaffected, and instead their much less etherically dense creations succumbed to the negative Dynamis. The beings of the Sundered Source, however, were not etherically dense enough to be immune to these transformative effects, and thus were physically corrupted by the Dynamis. On the other hand, Dynamis can be shown to have positive effects on creatures and beings, as hope and other positive feelings can give them extra strength and energy. And in general, harnessing Dynamis can be an alternative source of energy instead of Aether, which is why Medion was created as an Entilekis in the first place. It's also possible, though not confirmed, that Dynamis might be essential for life, and help sustain it much like Aether itself. As Medion implies, she will sing a final song to sow the seeds of life and hope throughout the universe after the Warrior of Light defeats her. Medion and Entilekis are not the only ones who can harness the power of Dynamis, however. While it is seemingly impossible to manipulate or channel on purpose, it seems that even regular beings not designed to channel Dynamis do have some rudimentary access to it. Feeling hope and staying positive in the face of the final days was a big theme that helped the Scions fight back against the corrupting force of Dynamis. And even beyond that, it's confirmed in the Warrior of Light's fight with the Endsinger that the power of Limit Break is a form of Dynamis. This likely explains why multiple adventurers are needed for a limit break, and why even then it takes so long to charge up, as Dynamis is inherently so weak and nearly impossible to manipulate. This is likely not a conscious use of Dynamis either, so I don't think we'll be getting a class that purposely uses Dynamis or anything like that anytime soon. And that's basically everything we know about Dynamis. I imagine since this is a new concept, we'll definitely be getting information on it in the upcoming patches and expansions, both retroactively in terms of potentially learning that things that have already been in the game are fueled by Dynamis, much like how they revealed that limit breaks are, as well as completely new concepts and threats in the game that might utilize it. I'm really excited for where Final Fantasy XIV is going. I don't think I've ever felt this unsure about where the story will go next, and while that can be a bit scary not knowing what to expect, it leaves the possibilities practically endless. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, I am going to be trying to increase my upload schedule to roughly once a week, which right now is a bit hectic because I'm still trying to figure out a schedule and workflow for that, but do expect to see more activity here on the channel. Also, if you enjoy my content, I did want to let you know that I opened up a Ko-fi page for people who may want to support me and the channel financially. I know I'm just a silly, small channel, and I'm only just now trying to fix my super inconsistent upload schedule, so I don't want anyone feeling like they have to donate. It's really just an option that's there if you like what I do and are able to. And regardless, I want to say to all my subscribers and to everyone who watches and enjoys my content, thank you so much. Every bit of kindness and support means so much to me, and I appreciate every single one of you who sat through this much of the video. For a small channel like this, every view, every like, every comment, and every subscription really just means the world to me, and I want to thank you all for being here from the bottom of my heart. With that being said, I hope you all enjoy the video. If you did, do be sure to like it, drop any questions, suggestions, or comments down below, and subscribe if you want more Final Fantasy XIV content from me. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace out.